Welcome to the True Demon Lord show. I am, of course, the True Demon Lord Franco, and today we're going to be talking about a very hot topic in the demon community. We're going to be talking about Be'lakor. So this is going to be talking about whether you should take him or should you not. I'm not going to try and convince you one way or the other, but I'm going to put forward the arguments on both sides because I don't think there's a right or wrong answer. I think both sides have their points. I think you can take them and still be competitive. I think you can not take them and still be competitive. It is going to depend on your list, your meta, the terrain, etc., etc. So, for anyone that follows the channel, for anyone that knows me, you'll know I am still a big follower of Be'lakor. I have a lot of nostalgic bias towards him. He was one of the first, or the first model alongside Fate Weaver that I ever bought when I got into this like 17 years ago. When he was small and metal, and you couldn't even run him in 40k back then 'cause he was. I don't even think he was in fantasy. I think it was more time, wasn't it? I don't know. Maybe you could run him in fantasy, but you could still buy his model, and it was annoying to put together, and it was tiny. But we're going to be talking about different. We're going to be going through it, the goods and the bads, and hopefully try and help you make that decision on whether you want to take them or not. Because we're trying to be neutral. We're not trying to push towards one agenda on it, whether we want you to take Be'lakor, not to take Be'lakor. This will probably generate a lot of conversation, maybe argument. But we'll see. We'll get into it. So let's start with why you want to take them. Or I guess we'll start with different points and we'll give the goods and bads in each. But let's look at which I think has always been the best part about him, which is his shadow bubble. So by shadow bubble, we mean he has a 6-inch aura where the battlefield within 6 inches of him is treated as your army shadow of chaos. That means any abilities or any strats or anything that would normally proc or go off in the shadows will go off while within 6 inches of him. So things like warp surge for advance and charge. The battle shock test +1 and healing when you do pass the battle shock test. They're good parts of the enhancements because every enhancement has like a caveat part, etc. etc. Now, a couple months ago, I don't know if it's end of June, beginning of July, around then, we got our latest data slate, which was coincided with Prior Nexus. And in that update, the greater demons, all of them, got their own shadow bubble. So that definitely depreciated the value of his. Now, something we have to remember is theirs is godlocked, where Bellacor's is universal. So that means Bellacor's shadow bubble benefits everyone. Anyone can drop whole Lubin 6 of him and 6 inches away from your opponent instead of 9 inches for dropping in the shadows. Whereas all of the bonuses, all of the, being able to um be able to use the shadow bubble of the greater demon, you must have the same corresponding god keyword or be from the same god. So, for example, only corn demons can benefit from the Bloodthirst or Scarbrand's shadow bubble. So, I still think Bellacor's is incredibly valuable because, again, the universal allows it to, with it being universal, it allows you to benefit from that with multiple different units. Being able to, if you take a list that you're taking multiple different greater demons, like a Bloodthirster and a Keeper, a Ground Clean one, you don't have to worry about who can drop where. They can all drop within 6 of him. Same with Fiends and Blood Crushers and Bloodletters and Plague Bearers, etc., etc. Now, if you are focusing specifically on one god, so for example, a pure corn list or a mostly corn list, then yeah, he's the value of his bubble is less so because obviously you've got your Bloodthirst and your Scarbrand to be able to do that off, and it will go the same for a Nurgle list and a Zinch list, etc., etc. So that'll be the upsides mostly, I think, for the Shadow Bubble. I still think having a universal bubble for him is really, really good. But if you're only really focusing on it for like one specific god, then maybe less so, and you want to look more at the actual greater demons themselves. Now, I try not to rely too much on the deep strikes, especially the 6-inch charging, even though it is very good. For my list, I try to play more on the board, but keep it in mind. So by taking Be'lakor, it's like if I want to use it, I can, and now anyone can use it, which is very nice. So yeah, I think the shadow bubble for him is still better than the others because it is universal, but the value of it definitely went down because now it's a bit more open. Like there are other stuff that can use it, or be able to give out a shadow bubble now. So let's look at Reefed in Shade. So Reefed in Shade is one of his pick 3 abilities. It is the one you always go with. You never went with force battle shocks at under half strength, under starting strength instead of half strength, or reroll battle shocks. It was rare. You would use it if you had to, but you never really chose to unless you really need, like you had no other choice. So Reefed in Shades gives him a 6-inch aura. While any of your units are within 6 inches of Bellicor, and they can only be targeted by the range attack by an enemy model if that model is within 18 inches of the target. So lone operative 18. And it is very, very good. It's still good. Now, obviously, we're in probably more of a combat meta or a melee meta, but shooting is still very prevalent. A lot of armies have big shooting pieces. Even combat armies, sisters still have good long range shooting from castigators. Marines still have lancers and well, not so much eradicators, but like say centurions. Like there are still loads of stuff out there for you to benefit, like be able to use Reefs and Shades and keep you safe for the early turns. The other reason I always liked it, even if it wasn't stopping people shooting you, it was forcing them into positions that they may not want to be in. So by looking at the way the board is, you may see, okay, I know I'm going to get shot next turn. Well, I want that unit that's going to shoot whatever I'm protecting with Bellicor to be in a position where I can now jump on it next turn. So by forcing them into certain positions, and your opponent now knowing, oh well, there's a unit of say fiends behind that wall that will jump at me if I get to this point to shoot the ground clean one or something like that. It either puts doubts in your opponent's mind and they may not do it, or if they do it, they could be now losing a key unit because you've got them in a position where you can counter that. So I always think Reef and Sheds were very good for that, and that's why I mostly liked it. Like protecting yourself early is obviously very good, but the more tricksy side of it I really, really liked. But yes, again, if you're in a meta where there's a lot less shooting, or you're in like certain terrain, you play on terrain and maps where it's less, like again, more places to hide, it's more dense, then of course Reef and Shade's value does drop. Then let's look at his shooting, betraying shades. I love it. Top profile. I always go top profile. 12 shots, strength 6, -3, 1 damage, devastating wounds, and ignore cover. That's really good. Like small 5-man 1 wound units, he just eats with that. Even marine squads he can batter, and even shooting up, like hitting into monsters and vehicles and stuff. Being strength 6, you're generally, unless it's tough and still, going to be winning on 5s. Unless they've got invulns, you're cutting for a lot of armor. And then devastating wounds just allows you to punch up with it as well. The amount of times that being able to knock wounds off of something with that has helped me kill it is really, really valuable, really nice. And then we've got his combat. So the Blade of Shadows is definitely frustrating. So you've got 6 attacks, strength 14, -3, -4, d6 +1 damage with lethal hits. I say this every time we bring this up. I've had him fail to kill rhinos, but I've also had him kill land raiders. I've had him kill Angron. I've had him do many things, but I've also had him fail to kill many things. Now, he struggles when people throw in anything with 4-up invulns, custodies he hates, but also like large units with like 10, like 2 wounds apiece. He does struggle into as well, like big 10-man marine units or whatever. Um, Things with 3 wounds as well, he struggles into, even if he's cutting straight through the armor, because again, he's just not got enough attacks. So he could definitely be better. And I think looking at some changes he could take to that, I think the Blade of Shadow should have devastating wounds instead of lethal hits, because come on, in a 9th edition, he was one of the first things to just flat ignore invulns in combat or in general, right? So he should definitely have that. Devastating wounds over lethal hits, and he should be D6 +2 damage, not D6 +1. So, I think there are a couple changes that would be very nice on him. And then let's look at something that's probably more of a con than a pro. Right, it's definitely a con. He's not that tough, right? Like stealth is okay. -1 to hit a range attacks is all right. There are a lot of ways to get, or a lot of armies can get +1 or 4 rerolls, so kind of negate it a bit. Then he's only T10, 18 wins with a 4-up invuln. Like again, I've had him tank loads of stuff and just not die. But also, he's very capable of just falling over to a gust of wind against a lot of people. Mass amount of attacks, really high damage attacks. It goes through him quite nicely, which isn't good for us, obviously. So I would love to see him get maybe a flat -1 to wound, because he's just nowhere near as tough as he should be. So a flat -1 to wound, I think, would be fine on him, and it would be nice. And it would help him a bit. So he's -1 to hit against shooting, always -1 to wound. It's better than nothing. Even bring back, the fact you can't reroll hits against him, because that was always great. And At first, it was like, okay, it's fine. We're in an edition where there's less rerolls, except that's just not true. There's less rerolls for us. We got drained of our rerolls, but the amount of games I go in and people have rerolls all over the place, it's really annoying, and feels like playing at a bit of a disadvantage. So yeah, I think he's nowhere near as tough as he should be. And then also his pick one of three abilities confuses me because Reef and Shades is really good, but you look at pretty much everyone else like Magnus and Mortarion and Abaddon, they generally have one of them is a reroll one. So why isn't like the one where you give yourself full reroll to battle shocks? I guess that is technically our reroll one. That should just be reroll hits a one, or even reroll full hits. Either one. He should definitely have a reroll hits a one or a full reroll as a hit. Aura in that pick one of three. So therefore you're then torn, like you don't get both Reefed in Shades and reroll hits. You choose between them, which I think is fine. So there's some quality of life changes I definitely think he could take. But like we said, this wasn't arguing to or for him. This was putting out, you know, the goods and the bads, why you could take him, why you don't take him, situations to take him, situations to not take him. I am for Bellacore. I still take him. I've definitely looked and dabbled with lists without him, but we generally, I always take him because again, I take him out my list, and then he just gradually makes his way back in when I'm toying around with it. So, but like I said, you can definitely build lists without him now. I still think he's incredibly valuable and viable. I don't want to say like you need to take him because I'm against those people that tell you should never take him and you're wrong for taking him. I don't think that's a good attitude to have. But Bellacore, he goes both ways. Again, I do think it depends on your list, your meta, the terrain you're playing on. I think they are all factors you've got to think about. But if you're running a very god focused list, like mostly Corn or mostly Nurgle, his value probably comes down a bit. Like you probably don't need him anywhere near as much. Rift and Shades is probably then what you're looking at. But if you want a large damage dealer or potential damage dealer, because strength 14, the only other places we have of strength 14 or better is Scarbrand, Bloodthirsters, Shalaxi, and Soul Grinders. And Soul Grinders are not always viable depending on where you are in the world. Sometimes you have to put them on the bases, like over here in the UK. Most of the time you do, in which case makes them not very viable. Um, yeah, like obviously Bloodthirsters and Scarbrand are good. Shalaxi's good while overpriced. So yeah, there's you know, you can really there's loads of thoughts on Bellacore. I think if you like him and you want to take him, because his model is, in my opinion, the best model GW have ever made. He is amazing. Like I don't think you can argue the fact that his model is gorgeous. And if you just want to take him because it's Bellacore, take him. You can still do well with him. Results speak for themselves. I do very well. People like Luke and Byron, who you see here on the channel, do very well with him. Like Bellacore is still very good, but also don't feel like you have to take him anymore because you can definitely build lists without him. So hopefully we've been neutral enough that you can kind of take from this, and it's helped you enough that you can kind of decide on which path you want to go to. Even if it's maybe not giving you the full decision, it's now giving you an idea of when you approach certain events you go to, or even just games at your club. You may think, okay, I know what I'm going to be playing on. You kind of know what you're probably going to be going into. You can now, you know, toy with the idea of maybe I don't need him, or maybe I do need him, or whatever way you kind of go with it. So please let me know down below, or even on Facebook, Instagram, whatever you want to do, or the Discord, which we'll link down below, what you think, where you would like to see it, or what your opinions are, where you're going with it, if this has helped you make that decision. um but yeah, so please check out Facebook, Instagram. That's where you can keep up to date with all of our latest uploads and everything, just True Demon Lord and me. um Please leave a like and subscribe. We always say it is free and it takes a few seconds, and it's very much appreciated. It helps the channel grow, which we are growing at a very fast rate, so I cannot thank you or show my appreciation enough for that. Get us to that 1,000 point subscriber mark, because we'll do another giveaway. We've just done our 500 subs giveaway, and I like doing giveaways. They're cool, they're fun. So yeah, check all of that out. Keep up to date with the channel because we've got some very cool content coming, including new lore videos. I'm very excited to do them. But yeah, thank you for tuning in. We will catch you all in the next one.